This vehicle is notoriously one of the worst tier 7 tank destroyers, but maybe it gets a bad name and it's actually much better than it actually is, and this is of course part of the series where we're going towards the T110E4, and yeah, we're going to be showcasing all of the tech tree vehicles leading up to the T110E4 in a big video. So let's get into what the T25/2 is, and then yeah, we can take a look at the next vehicle for the next review coming soon. So straight off the bat, the T25/2 is of course the Advanced Optics, Advanced Concealment and Advanced Loader. This is the tier 7 American kind of tank destroyer, and yeah, we're running it in a way that can basically boost our view range, boost our damage per minute, and boost our concealment so we can stay hidden, deal more damage, and spot people from further away, which is ultimately what you really want in TDs, especially ones like this, which are made of absolute paper. And of course, yes, this TD is made of absolute paper, so everyone that hits you will be basically penning unless they get very unlucky. So just keep an eye out. And now that hitbox at the top of the vehicle, that is of course spaced armor. It doesn't count as actual armor, and so you will not be able to do damage if you hit the very top of the vehicle, so avoid trying to aim for that. It looks like you can actually pen it, you can't, so just aim for the actual tank itself and you'll 9 times out of 10 pen it. Probably 99 times out of 100 will pen this thing. So it's not very forgiving for the brand new player, but as you go through the line, the armor gets significantly better, and the next vehicle in this line is actually much better as well, the T28 prototype. But of course, the T25/2, what are its main kind of benefits, considering that it has a lot of negatives? It's not particularly the fastest of vehicles. You can see right now it can go up to 56 kilometers an hour. However, the horsepower to weight ratio means that the tank is a bit sluggish, and with some of the terrain resistances, it definitely feels a little bit sluggish as well. It's not the best at turning around, and certainly the turret rotation speed of this thing can leave it a bit high and dry when it comes to medium tanks and light tanks trying to out-traverse you. However, you do get 10 degrees of gun depression, accuracy is nice, and for all intents and purposes 240 alpha damage is pretty good, especially considering how much damage per minute this vehicle has. If you look at it, 2167 as we've currently got it set up, and that's without even having a commander. So as soon as we pop one in here, yes, we are going to be able to get up to 2563 with all of the benefits of having the skills. Skills wise, we are using this loadout. Primarily, this is a very good tank destroyer that has no armor loadout for a commander. We've gone with, of course, 6 cents, almost a given on every single tank in the game. Steady aim for the increased accuracy, rapid loading for increased damage per minute, born leader for increases in loads of different areas including damage per minute, situational awareness for view range, camo expertise for increased camo so we stay hidden more, muffled shot to be able to increase our camo when we're firing in those bushes, and green thumb to increase the camo even more when we are in bushes as well. And then silent driving decreases the effect of driving on your vehicle's camo factor, so we can, guess what, remain hidden from enemy vehicles a little bit better even when we're moving. So essentially, when you normally move, your kind of view range at which you'll get spotted by when you're moving is much bigger than when you're kind of stationary, which is why when you're kind of aiming towards people and trying to stay hidden, you don't want to move, because as soon as you move, your camo gets bigger, you can often get spotted. This will decrease how much that big bloom is between stationary and when you're kind of moving. So essentially, you're not as detectable when you are moving, which is what the silent driving is there for. So that's kind of how we've gone with this tank. Obviously, there are a few alternatives that you could use, but for the most part, I don't think we realistically need them. The accuracy of this tank's not terrible, so we don't really need to boost it up anymore, because, you know, 0.29 is more than enough. And given that we've got a 5.62 second reload, we can certainly deal damage quite quickly. But of course, the proof is in the pudding, and I guess we should really look at how we're actually playing this in the game to make use of it, and whether or not it really is as bad as people make out. And I guess I am a bit of a stickler for a tank that no one likes. I always typically enjoy the ones that are supposedly bad, because at least then you feel like you're the underdog. And it's always funny when you take out people that are in the OP tanks when you're playing in an absolute garbage one. However, I'm not going to call this tank garbage. Let's have a look at the replays. Now then, the first replay that we do have is, of course, on Hidden Village. And this is an interesting one because it's not the most insane amount of damage that we deal in one game. But you can kind of see how you can use a tank that has no armor. It's very applicable to almost every single tank that has no armor, these sorts of gameplays. And so hopefully you'll learn a couple bits, or if you are playing up against this, you'll know some of the weak points as well. So straight off the bat, we are playing in a tier 7 game. This is top tier, just happened to be one of the ones that we came into. But alternatively, this tank works quite well in higher tiers just because the penetration on the premium rounds is okay. You can pen a lot of tier 9s anyway, so yeah, it's mainly about positioning when you're playing a tank like this, and often the positions can give you side shots rather than just trying to brawl with them. That changes as you go down the tech tree line. When you start looking at the T110E4 itself, at the tier 10, obviously it comes off of this. The tank has a little bit more armor, almost plays like an E100, whereas the T25/2, obviously you cannot play like a heavy tank, and if you do, you're going to be getting hit by enemy heavy tanks who will most likely have more alpha damage than you will. So yeah, you definitely don't want to be doing that. But you can see me here, I'm a bit hesitant to push up towards this A43, but we're going to start doing it because it looks like the enemy team are kind of sitting back on their laurels, at least from what we can see here. We're going to go in and try and get a free shot into one of these tanks. You can see the Leo's moving around. We wait till he gets into our sights, and they're a free shot into the back of him and helping out the other side of the game to at least get through that flank a little bit easier. If you can create spots like that where you can find people, the backsides and stuff like that of enemies, it's going to be much better. Now you can see here, we're just trying to get behind so we can get a shot into the Tiger 217 here. We do manage to pen him. It should be a pretty easy pen. We just don't want to hit the mantlet. No, I said we don't want to hit the mantlet, please. Let's not do that. So hopefully this next one will actually hit. We get hit by the A43, which is fine. It doesn't have a lot of alpha, and of course we got like double the damage that we can take from that guy. Sometimes you do have to take a bit of damage when you are playing in paper tanks. You don't have to play as a stealthy tank all of the time. So yeah, well, that's kind of how we're kind of staying right now. Obviously, you're not seeing me overexpose myself. If you do that in a tank like this, you are going to take a lot of damage. You're going to end up losing pretty quickly and end up back in the garage much quicker. So we're just playing a little bit more casually, a little bit more careful. We don't want to YOLO in all too much, even though we are a top tier vehicle in this game. But there you go, another free shot into the A43, and so far picked up nearly 1500 damage in a game and only taken 150 in return. So it's like a 10 to 1, but everything can change very quickly when you play a tank like this, so you've got to be a little bit careful. Got a little bit unlucky to bounce off of the KV-1S's turret there with AP, so a little bit unfortunate. But so far not a bad game, but we are starting to get pincer maneuvered. They have completely broken the right hand side of the map. Maybe that was my bad. I was thinking that there was quite a lot of our team over there, but seems like they might have been the lower tier vehicles and not a lot of the higher tier ones to kind of finish them off. But it's okay, we've started getting a little bit of damage up against these people. And this is where we can start getting some more. So far 2000 damage. It's a kind of a crazy amount of damage compared to how much we've received, but you can see me here just going for blind fires on that Hellcat on the enemy team. Unfortunately, he does escape and sits behind the rock, which is fantastic, just what I wanted. But maybe from this sort of position, this is kind of where maybe I make a bit of a misplay. I'm just hoping that I can reset the cap. We don't want to lose to cap if it's going to be a loss anyway. So you can see me here just trying to find the IS. He actually reverses out of the cap circle and then goes forwards, allowing us another free shot. So yeah, not looking too bad for the team. It's a 7v7, so it's very, very even. And in these sorts of games, in a top tier tank, you have to have the impact. And currently, we're not really having that impact. And realistically, I should have gone back to help out the teammates in G7 because they are getting absolutely pounded by the medium tanks on the enemy team, alongside whoever else is about. And of course, when you've got an E25 on the enemy team, the most toxic tier 7 tank destroyer compared to this one, which is definitely not a toxic one. Yeah, it's a bit of a feels bad. And especially now, because it's a 2 versus 6. And I was really hoping that this Hellcat would have got spotted and I could have finished him off, because he is going to be a pain in the later game of this map. Of course, we get spotted by the AMX EOC on the enemy team, and I was hoping to get a blind fire on the Hellcat, but unfortunately he was actually there, but he didn't actually kind of stay there. And unfortunately for me, we do take one shell, and then the most horrible tank comes up from behind, and it's not good. But we reverse out of the way of him, but then the EOC comes around. So you can see it's good at dealing damage, but as soon as you start taking hits, you are dead. Like, there is no bouncing, there's nothing really to stop people from YOLOing you sometimes, and you can end up on the worst foot a lot of the time. So you've got to be very aware, and if you make a small mistake, or you make a mistake like we did in that game, yeah, you can end up paying with it very, very quickly, and you don't even get to hit them very many times in return. So the T25/2 is definitely a tough tank to actually play, and it's definitely a tank that is probably more rewarding for people that have played the game a lot longer. Newer players are going to struggle through this tank, which is probably why it gets its bad name. But yeah, hopefully that's given you an indication of the T25/2. These reviews are smaller, so we can bunch them all together into one full tech tree review with a final showcase at the end of all of the vehicles, as well as a run through at the end of that. So stay tuned, because there's going to be more. We're going to move on to the T28 prototype, which is the tier 8 on the following line, and it is a much more interesting tank in terms of how it plays. Is a bit more novel and unique than this one, that is basically a paper tank that deals 240 damage and relies upon basically having good DPM for its tier. But other than that, if you have got any questions or you want to see other tank lines, because we'll be running these videos in between each other, it's not going to be a case of the T25 right now and then tomorrow the T28 prototype. It will be a case of a variety of different tanks all mishmashed together that are in the same format, so then we can do a full tech tree review at the end of all of the videos. So hopefully that will be useful to you guys. Hopefully it will be an interesting new concept for playing and making some content on the game, which would be good, because we're slowly working our way to basically finishing off all of the tech tree lines, and we've basically already reviewed most of the vehicles in the game. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy the videos coming soon, and we'll have more guides and more gameplay. And if you want to find out how to fix your armor in the game and how armor actually works in the game, then have a look at this video on the left, and if not, have a look at the How to Get Better at World of Tanks playlist, and we'll soon have a playlist going over tech tree reviews as well. And I will see you in the next one. Have a great rest of the day. Goodbye.